RaviLations 310. One must always make the right basketball decision. Alright guys, so this is a video where I took notes because this idea just struck me, and it's something that I've always lived by, but it's something that struck me on a walk with my dog. So I just decided, hey, let me just write this down and I'm going to speak about it. You must always make the right basketball decision. And this is an analogy for life. This is an analogy for life, okay? It's kind of a tongue twister. But it's not just about basketball. This is about life. And you'll see how it applies if you really think about it, okay? But let me just get into the topic, okay? And let's talk about basketball specifically, all right? I've been coaching basketball for some time. I've played basketball for a long time. And, you know, I consider myself to be an unselfish player. I think I'm pro level to a certain extent. There are definitely pro leagues I could play in. I'm a good shooter. I can defend pros. I've done it a lot. And a lot of pros that I know tell me I'm pro level. So, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna rebuke that. So with that and the fact, you know, my coaching experience, I know a thing or two about basketball, right? Okay, so what does it really mean to make the right decision in basketball? When I'm coaching and when I have kids, what I'm going to tell them and train them to do is this. In game, after you work on your skill work outside of the game, practice making the right decision. So when you're working on your game, you're working on your skill, you're working on your shot, you're working on scoring pretty much. You might work on passing with one hand or the other, hitting targets, whatever it might be. You're working your skills, okay? But you're not working decision making. Most training is scripted to some degree. Of course, there are creative drills and there are drills that require the players to solve problems and have make their own decisions and drill that as well. But those are exceptions. The majority of skills training is individual and kind of single track, right? And that's how the majority of your reps are going to be, right? In order to get better, you're going to have to just rep things out by yourself a lot. That's really what makes you better. The majority of your improvement comes from that style of training. That's just the facts, right? If you want to get your shot up, yes, you've got to run around and make your shot more difficult, but the catch and shoot is the bread and butter. Just practicing that on the gun is what's going to really lock in your form. And yes, you need to do all the other stuff to keep improving and continue to actually make a game relevant, but you need to always be shooting on the gun and getting shots up, period, right? So in game, when you're in the game, you got to practice making the right decision. That's the main focus in the game, okay? The skill work, working on your game, working on scoring, all that is great, but the games, the AAU games, live runs, real competition, that's for practicing basketball instinct and making the right decision, okay? What I mean by that is if your teammate is open, practice hitting your open teammate rather than practicing getting by a first defender and then a second defender just because you can. That's not always the right basketball decision, and you're going to build terrible habits doing that. And that's facts, okay? I wrote this down earlier, but think of it like this. If you are playing in your 14U, 15U game, right, and you're able to beat the first and second defender and score over somebody, that's cool, bro. That's sick. But let's be real. That's not the level of competition that you're going to be playing against your whole life. You got to be ready for pros and people who it's going to be very difficult for you to do that stuff against, right? So the best thing to do is still have that skill, maintain that, right? Of course, but you know it's not meaningful to beat some kid from Arkansas or Massachusetts, and I'm not saying anything about those states, but I'm saying it's not meaningful to just beat some random kid is what I'm saying. Of course, they're a dog. I mean, I think fucking Cooper Flag is from Maine, but you get it though. You're not gonna focus on beating some kids from some random state who are just mid-average, bots, bro. It doesn't matter if you can score a ton on them, but you can sharpen your mind and make the right decision and live with yourself and know that that's going to carry you further in the game. Okay, so you need to hit your open teammate. If you get by that first defender, draw a defender. Practice making that decision. Otherwise, you're going to build a habit of trying to force shit on a second defender. And you're going to not hit your open teammate when that motherfucker can actually shoot when you're in the league or when you're in D1, you know what I mean? Whatever. So that's not how you go about it. In the game. You got to build good habits, okay? If you're in a game where you're the highest level of competition and everybody else kind of sucks, which is bound to happen if you're like a high-level player, right? And if you've been training your whole life from day one, you had a dad that was in basketball, and they push you, and you did things right throughout your childhood, it's bound to happen, right? Don't just go up and try to rebound everything because you can. Still box out. You understand? And that's a metaphor for life. Just because you can jump over this kid doesn't mean you're going to jump over the kid next week at EYBL, okay? Just because you can jump over the hoop group kid, okay, or the EYBL kid even, doesn't mean you're going to jump over the kid at Alabama in March Madness. right? A lot of people, that's the way you got to think about it. Still box out, still rotate, still make the fundamentally correct play. Practice making the right basketball decision. That's a muscle, okay? This right here and making the right basketball decision is a muscle. The right basketball decision is on offense. The right basketball decision on offense is whatever gives your team the best chance to score the basketball. That might be giving it to your shooter on the wing who's open. Or if you're at the top of the key handling the ball and you have a guy to your left who's slightly open as a shooter, but your big in the post is basically an automatic 2 points, then you have to factor in the calculus of who gives your team the best expected outcome. So being able to decide what is the best expected outcome, what can I do right here to get my team the best expected outcome, that is a skill. That's something that you need to work on, okay? It's all about habits, guys. I see guys who over dribble all the time in pickup, and it's like, yo, well, it's pickup, right? They're over dribbling, whatever. Is it the end of the world that they're over dribbling in this setting? Probably not. But the reality is that's a habit for them, most likely. More likely than not, they're doing that as a habit, and they're doing that in game too. And that's why somebody who's very talented is likely not pro. And these are split-second decisions, okay? These are not things you can turn on and off. This is innate experiential understanding, like we talked about before, right? It's an experiential understanding of, hey, I'm in this situation, I'm going to make the right decision because it's a habit for me to make the right decision. I'm going to box out here. I'm gonna hit my teammate here. But yeah, going back to the example of, deciding between the big and the post and the shooter, whoever gives your team the best expected outcome, it might actually be the big, even though the shooter is more open, because the post touch is still the higher percentage play, right? It depends on the personnel you have on the court, and you have to think like a coach in that regard and make the right basketball decision. Now, if you have a guy open, but you truly believe you have a better chance of scoring by beating your man, and there's no second defender in sight, no help, no low man, and attacking is the cleaner play compared to swinging it to the opposite wing where a defender may recover and force another action, attack a closeout, then that's fine too, right? But it's about making the right, practicing, calculating that best expected outcome quickly in your mind. That's a skill in and of itself, and people really underrate that, and that's what games are for. But yeah, you can attack there in that situation. But hey, you better be right, man. You better learn how to calculate that shit, come up with that shit in your head quick, on a split-second decision. Okay, this guy, he's wide open, but he's not exactly a shooter. I have a better chance beating this guy. Okay, look, I can beat this guy wide open. This guy's closing out on him, but he's a fucking lethal threat, so I'm going to throw it over here and get 3 points because I think he'll make that anyway. Like, you got to be able to think these things quick. That's part of the game. If you're going to look your open teammate off, you better be right. I'm not saying you should never do it. You probably shouldn't do it. It's not a good thing to do. But if you do it, you better be right. You better go get that bucket. I'm telling you. And if I'm on the sideline, you're going to hear it from me if you look off your open teammate and go do some dumb shit. For another example, defensively, if you have the opportunity to be in a little bit of an extra help situation because you think the guy guarding the ball is a weaker defender on your team, and based on your coach's standards, you feel like you need to overhelp a little bit more than what the coach would generally say you should do in that position, then sometimes it makes sense to bend the rule. If the player you're leaving is not that great of a shooter, it may be the right decision to leave your man a little bit more open so you can jam the drive, cut off what is almost a straight line attack, make the ball handler pick up his dribble, or retreat and force the offense to kick it back out, reset the possession. Now they lose some of the shot clock, they lose rhythm, and they have to start over. That can absolutely be the right defensive decision, even if it's not the exact standard rule that the coaching staff has set, okay? Because any good coach is going to be adaptable to some extent. They're not going to sit there and say, you didn't do it my way, so it's automatically wrong, regardless of personnel. Now, if they do that, they're ass at coaching. And I mean, look, sometimes that's the case. Even with me, sometimes, bro, like, you got to do it my way because this is a non-negotiable. I have non-negotiables as well. How we cover screens, non-negotiable to me, ball screens. I have a way of doing that, and we're going to do that every single time. I don't care what you have to say about it, okay? You are automatically wrong in that situation. There's some things that I'm particular about because I've seen it many times and I have an experiential understanding, again, of certain things that you might intellectually disagree with, but it doesn't matter because you are a child, bro. You're a player, okay? You're mostly like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been doing this way longer, You just got to trust me on certain shit, but I'm going to let you rock sometimes, okay? And if a coach is always like that, you didn't do it my way, you're automatically wrong. It doesn't work like that, especially not in this era. Most good coaches are going to understand. But you better be able to come to the sideline and justify why you did something. If there's no reason and it's just, I just wanted to, then you're going to get benched, okay? That's why you have to practice making the right basketball decision and train yourself to process all these variables quickly. Hey, coach, I saw him rotating over there, so I didn't close out. Instead, I went over to the paint to help on the drive more because, I was staying attached to the middle, da-da-da. Whatever it is you tell me, if you bend the rules that I gave you, then you better have a justification for that, okay? Okay? And that's why you have to practice making the right basketball decision. Train yourself to process all these variables quickly. That's a skill. That's something you actually have to practice. And a lot of people don't focus on that. You have to think, this guy's a weaker shooter. This defender needs help. The spacing is this. The shot clock is that. You have to build that muscle, and it takes work. It takes practice. It takes building experience through practice, okay? Practice equals building experience. That's what I call it, okay? Practice is just another word for building experience. And you got to build that experience, bro. It takes practice to build an experiential understanding of making the right basketball decision. And that's why you have to practice for years and years making the right basketball decision, because eventually you start to understand it. Eventually it starts to stick, okay? You can't just do it a couple times and be like, I can turn this on and off. Nah, it doesn't work like that. Can you turn on your ability to shoot, turn it on and off? Nah. You know what I mean? You're going to practice the right form, and you're probably not going to risk fucking up your form doing some dumb shit for fun. By the time you're an adult, by the time you're ready for college or pro basketball, you'll understand what the right basketball decision is. All right, if you do things this way. It becomes an experiential understanding that comes from having practiced the instinct muscle of making basketball plays over and over again. It's important to understand this, okay? And you got to do it, man. You got to do it the right way, okay? You can't shortcut that. You can't take reps off and say, "Oh, this weekend I'm just gonna do what I want to do and try to score." Nah, because then you're gonna build bad habits. Okay, you can't do that. But all right, man. Hey, and look, and this applies in life. I'm not going to explain it to you how it applies in life, but you know it. Innately, you kind of know this applies in life. Think about it. This shit applies in life too, okay? Always just make the right decision. Build that muscle, okay? But yeah, man, okay, peace and love. All right, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what y'all want me to talk about next, okay? Peace.